everyone, and welcome to the No Grow Go podcast. I'm Matt Jordan. I'm the senior pastor here at First Methodist Church Enterprise. And what we need from you is to make sure that you share today's podcast episode, you subscribe, and click the notification bell so you get notified when we have other podcasts go live. Today, we have a very, very special guest with us, a dear friend of mine, and someone I knew before he became on city council, as he was a member of our church for some years, and he and Miss Dawn are out volunteering everywhere, and I could just tell you that anywhere you go in the city at an event, an emergency, or anything in between that's fun or something that's tedious or something that involves hands-on work or whatever it may be, you're going to see Dawn and Scotty Johnson there. So today we have City Council member Scotty Johnson, CW4 retired. CW5 retired, and we are grateful that you are here with us, Scotty. Tell us a little more about yourself and what everyone needs to know about you.
Thank you, Matt. And I was going to say it's the first time for me on a podcast, so this is awesome, and I appreciate you asking me to come. Yeah, I'm retired CW5, spent 38 years in active duty in the Army, had 8 enlisted, and a whole nother story. That first 8 years, I was selected and very honored to work with the White House Communications Agency. So I actually worked on the Johnson and the Nixon administration. And then finally in 74, I went to flight school.
Wow.
Did 30 years flying Hueys and Blackhawks and airplanes, the King Air or C-12s. Then I didn't have enough, so I spent 13 more years after I retired in 2004 as a DAC out at Fort Rucker, then Fort Novosel now.
Yeah.
So I've been very blessed to be in the Army and such a great community. In fact, that's why I'm like giving back to the community, because it took care of me and my family, Dawn and my kids, and now several of my grandkids and great-grandkids are in the area. So the city, Wiregrass, Coffee County has been wonderful to us. So now I can serve in civilian clothes and not serve in a uniform, but help out.
That's great. That's great. Well, Scotty, let me ask you this, and I know we didn't talk about this beforehand, but just came to my mind. I grew up around Redstone Arsenal, so government, DOD, those sorts of things I'm pretty familiar with. There wasn't I may not have recognized that my dad worked on the Marshall Space Flight side, but there wasn't as big of a military presence as there is here in Enterprise. But I've got 2 cousins that are Marine Corps retired. Tell us, what is something, maybe 1 or 2 things that your time in the military prepared you for leadership, either in city council or in the community, of just some things that, maybe we have a student or someone listening that's like, I'm not so sure if I want to do the military. What's there for me? Tell us a little bit something about that. Yeah.
I was very blessed, like I said, my first 8 years, and seeing how that ran. Now, we provided communications to the president, first family, vice president around the world. So it gave me a new perspective on that end of it, up to the federal government. We didn't get involved in politics. It didn't matter who was president. We were there to provide communications around the world and stuff. So I saw that leadership there, and then I thought, I originally was going to go to flight school initially and OCS probably, but when I went up there, that was great. And then I decided in 74, time to go to flight school. And being a warrant officer for 30 years and holding leadership places, spots, whether I was a standardization officer or a safety officer. I was a communications officer when I first got my first assignment as a wobbly one, W01. And they said, you're in charge of these 6 folks in your commo shop, or you're in charge of this or that. And it was like, okay, now I've got to be a leader. It helped me to be where I am today, to be patient, to listen to folks. Now, I wish I had that magic wand to make things happen, like boom, boom on the spot. I know it doesn't happen that way. There's always legalities and everything else that has to happen. But if you take your time, it's going to happen sooner or later. But as a leader in the Army, and having people rely on me, then I'm now able to say, okay, I can help out other folks. I've always been a researcher. So I've got folks that say, well, I see a lot on Facebook. What's the best restaurant? What's this? What's that? What's this? Why not research it, yourself? Because what I like, you may not like.
Right.
And so Dawn and I, and of course the great grandkids, we always go out to dinner, and we like to try everything. We'll go around. Now, I've got a couple of places where I go just for one thing. I go another place for one thing, another place. And so that's what I try to get the folks to do is just research it. Go out there and look on the internet and find out. If not, call me, ask me. I'll find it for you. And I learned that early on because at the White House, I was a switchboard operator, and we would have to find certain people when the president called or somebody said, hey, I need this person or that person. And so you had to do your homework. And so that back then, as a young E6, kind of gave me that initial guidance as being a leader.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and part of being a leader and kind of connecting the dots for us, is you connect people, whether it be in the White House or connecting folks under your leadership as a warrant officer, now as a city councilman and connecting there, and you're director of CERT as well. And
yes, I was one of these, missed the meeting, and it was kind of like a voluntold. I went to Dothan and got certified in the community emergency response team up there. And then I took the training as an instructor, and then I was hoping going to bring it down. And then I got the word, oh, guess what? Enterprise is going to have it. Well, that time Enterprise Rescue was going to probably be the lead on it. But the young gentleman that was going to do it decided to take a job over in Afghanistan at the time as a paramedic. So it was like, Scotty, you've been around the Army. You know how to lead. You know how to write SOPs and do this stuff. So I went, you okay? And like I said, I missed a meeting. It was voluntold. But I've enjoyed it. We started in 2010 with the community emergency response team. We've got over 200-300 members that have come and gone. We just completed our 46th class.
Wow!
And I couldn't do it without our first responders, especially Chief Chris Davis and the firefighters out there, because that's where we hold it at Central Fire Station. And Chief Davis, back when he was a captain at the rescue and a captain at the fire department, was teaching the fire piece, the rescue piece, and the other modules that we have. And when he became a chief, I asked him, I said, are you going to still be able to do it? He said, oh, yeah. So he's there on Saturday morning when we do our training, and he's in there for probably about 5-6 hours teaching our CERT volunteers throughout the community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and it's beautiful to see the community come together that way. And one thing that I think is important for our community is knowing where to get information and how to access that information. Mm-hmm. And through your experience at the White House of someone says, where can I find info on X? And you know where to get them to Y. And as a city councilman, you do that well. And as a CERT director, I can tell you, I've seen you in action a couple of times. But for those in our community, you see it on Facebook, so do I, and Instagram and other places. And folks say, well, how did we not hear about this event? Or how did we not hear about that? Or those that aren't relying a lot of times on social media, where do they find information? Because we see this as a church, too, with members who they'll say, well, I didn't hear about such and such. And I'm like, well, we put it on social media. We sent it in an email. And they say, oh, well, my email's not been working for 6 years. How are we supposed to know that?
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? So how is it that getting people connected to the right places of information, and where can they find that information the city?
I tell folks, look, if you can't find it, call me. My number is on the City of Enterprise site. Go up to where it says government, look down where it says council, and you'll see all our numbers. Mm-hmm. I'll talk to you any day, any night. But getting information out, short of me handing you a flyer on the stuff, I ask folks, well, how do you get your information? Do church members get it to you, the family, friends? How do you get that? And if you don't, let me know. I'll get it to you. But there's several places that you can get that. The Enterprise Chamber of Commerce page is outstanding. Aaron Grantham over there and Bree and Marie and Abby now, they do a great job putting out the information on their website. They've got a calendar there. If it's not there, then go to the City of Enterprise website. And also the Facebook pages for both of those have a lot of information. But the City of Enterprise website, Emily Glasscott, our public information manager, does an outstanding job. Our media warnings and just blitzes out there. She's done a great job. She's been with us a couple of years. And the information is there. In fact, I tell folks, look, go to the bottom of the page, scroll all the way down through the news, and information. And you'll see down at the very bottom, it'll talk about elections in municipalities. It's got the road pavement reporting their process, what we've done, what we're doing now, what phase we're in. We just did a bit on phase 5. We got a whole bunch of streets there, and we're going out to phase 10. It's all on there. People can see it. The other thing is all our agendas for all our city council planning, everything is on the website. All they need to do is go up there and look at the past meetings. And in fact, if you can't come to a meeting, which just happens to be the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock, you can view it online. We stream it. But the thing is I recommend that people come to the 5 o'clock meeting. That's our work session. That's when the rubber meets the road, as I tell folks. That's where we sit down and go through our strategic planning. What's our goals and visions for this quarter? Jonathan Tullis, our city administrator, gets up there with some of the staff, and they will go down item by item in the agenda. And that's where you hear everything. Yeah. And we get briefed on that stuff. Even though we're down there during the week getting information, that's a great time to come. And the 6 o'clock is the meeting where people go, well, that was kind of quick. Sometimes. I never say this is going to be a quick meeting or not. Yeah. But it can be quick because we've already discussed everything in the agenda there. But to find the information, you just got to get online and go see it, especially in the city of Enterprise. And I've talked to Emily and a few other folks, Aaron, and I said, if we need to go out to some of these civic organizations, and I'll put a laptop up and we'll scroll through and we'll show it to the folks exactly how to get on there, how to find that information. It's no secret. Right. There's a lot of transparency. In fact, you can go up there and go to services and go to our finance, revenue, whatever. You'll see exactly what people are making. You'll see the current budget. You'll see the bills, capital, all those projects that's going on there. It's all on the website. It's just a matter of going to it. And I will sit down with anybody. In fact, I asked people on Facebook, hey, meet me. I did have one person said they'd show up. Didn't. I'm not going to say any names or nothing. But we sat there for a while. That's fine. Something might have happened to them. I know that. But I sat with another lady 2.5 hours down here, and I'll give a plug, Daily Bread. Yep. Since the church.
I'm going with Duncan, but Daily Bread, they open and serve breakfast early for our student Bible study. That needs in there. They'll open up and do breakfast early for them. Yeah, Derek does a great job. My son Daniel manages down there with Derek, and I'll tell you, it's just great. When I've gone in there early and see the young folks, and then when they do their worship thing on Friday night, it's just so awesome. Bailey and the group does super with the music. But I sat with that lady 2.5 hours, and after she walked out, she said, I didn't know all that. I didn't know that was on the site. I didn't know, because she had a question about roads. Right. Why wasn't her road being done? And I said, well, here's the order. And that's a whole nother story back in 2019 when they started that study and how we picked the roads because of the PCI, pavement condition indicator. And, you may think your road's worse, but if it hasn't been done yet, there are worse roads than yours. Right. Out there. And right now, because of the roads, and I'm getting off topic, but we have a lot of water lines, infrastructure we're trying to repair. We don't want to go in there and repair the roads and then tear it up for the water. So we got to get the water lines done, and then we're going to come in and do it. It's interesting. I had a gentleman call me about his road. Said, "Oh, there's potholes. It's bad. Come out and do it. Put speed bump, fix the potholes and everything." And then when we fixed it, because it was due to get fixed, he called me back up and says, "Hey, can you come out and put speed bumps on now? People are driving too fast." So, I had a conversation with a leader not long ago, and I don't have their permission to share the story, so I'm not going to say their name. But we were in a conversation. They said, man, I think I could give every person under me a briefcase with $1 million in it, and they're going to say, is that briefcase the same color for everybody? Everybody going to have a question. Amen. Yeah, that's right. Well, and I can tell you with the roads and the pipes, on Edwards, I think is what's right here behind the church. They were cast iron. And so I think it's pretty wise of the city to as someone who has had enough redneck failures in my life, fixing a pipe and then having to go back and repair it again, fix it fix it right the first time before you have to go back in and tear something out twice.
Exactly. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician or anything. I get the right folks to do it. Yeah. And when they say we got to do this or do that, I say, okay, fine. And I try to explain that to the folks out there that it's going to get done. I don't have that magic wand. Just be patient, or you may end up being a patient.
Yes, right. That's right.
So just be calm out there. It'll get taken care of. But I'm willing, like I said, to listen to anybody at any time. I'll go wherever and talk to the folks. I got to tell two real quick. I walked into church last week, and no sooner I stepped in, somebody asked me about water and roads and stuff. And then the other story was, I was at a funeral, and I was in line, and somebody asked me again, Scotty, what about the bypass? And what about the road? And I don't mind. Now, Miss Dawn, my sweetie, we've been married 59 years here.
Wow, goodness gracious.
I've been very blessed. She's been there from day one back in college, and I am truly blessed. But it's funny because she kept trying to grab me in the line and pull me forward. And then sometimes we'll be out on the festival or something, and somebody will stop and ask me a question, and I'll look at her, and she knows by now she'll walk ahead, and then I'll eventually catch up. And the other day at the Piney Woods, we were supposed to be walking around. Somebody stopped me. We were talking, and she'd already made it around and was coming across, looking at me like, but she understands. Yeah. She knows, and she knows I'm going to take time to talk to folks. And whether you're in my district or not, it doesn't matter. I'm here for the city, for the community.
Right.
That gave me so much over the years. That I want to give back. And all the churches, I mean, it's just amazing the input that they have for the community. You're talking about the Bible Belt. Being down here, I am just so blessed. I could have gone down to Florida on the job or up to Huntsville, but I told Don, let's stay in Enterprise.
Yeah.
And let's do an Enterprise at the time. Many years ago.
Right.
But now it's like she wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah. We just love it. And, we've rented a couple times here. We bought a couple homes here. And we're finally in that final home, I think.
Yeah, good. But and I'll say this as a community member, and I've had the privilege of being on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce for a 3-year term, and I've been able to been involved in Rotary Club and some other things, and so I think being involved in the city is one way to get information. Just finding a way, whether it's being an ambassador through the chamber, whether it's being through an active volunteer with CERT or a community club like Lions Club or Rotary or anything along those lines. That's definitely a helpful way. The more involved you are, the more you're going to know about things. But I think what is also a part of that I learned that so many people don't understand is, they think that the Chamber of Commerce is a part of city government. And they think that, that all of these community groups and organizations just all get the same email thread. And it doesn't work that way.
No.
Yeah. There's a lot of time. I've been in a lot of those meetings, and I have seen a lot of time where it's like, okay, hey, this is what we have on our calendar. Is this what you have on your calendar? And just trying to make sure that everything is clearly there. Sometimes, sometimes the ball gets dropped, and that's the human nature of us. But Aaron does a great job at the chamber, and Tammy Dewar does a phenomenal job with Visit Enterprise. And now is it Lila Falk
from Main Street?
Yeah, and Lily McDaniel.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a great job as well as Emily Glasscock and all of trying to coordinate all of those things. And so, I would say if there's a few social pages to follow, the Chamber of Commerce page is one to follow. Main Street or Downtown Enterprise is a page to follow. The city is a page to follow. And I would even go as far as following the Coffee County EMA. Right. When you think about needs for, within emergencies, we were told pretty quickly after the Veterans on Fire, hey, push everything to the EMA page. That's where we're going to share information on needs and those things. So if you're looking for some type of social media info that is city events, city information, where can you find contact info for your representatives, and where can you find opportunities to serve in those things, I would say follow this is community-wise, right? I would say follow the chamber page, city page, EMA page, Main Street Enterprise page, and then with that, your algorithm, I guess you could say, your social media will take you to a lot of other pages. But those would be the ones I would go to. And then I can say, as someone that goes to city council every now and then to pray, I always, except for this last time when my oldest son decided to try to take off to see all the city council members while I was praying.
That was perfect. I thought he was going to come up and start helping you out with the prayer.
Listen, I thought he would. Tammy, bless her heart, she was back there, and it was really my fault. I had dropped the ball on getting a babysitter, and I thought I was supposed to pray tonight instead of last week, and so I was like, they'll be fine. I'm just going to pray, and then we'll just leave, and James Cochran did great, and John Green was doing so nice back there with Tammy. And the minute that I started praying, I just heard this footsteps just running up behind me.
I knew who it was. And I heard that. It was so cute.
And but most of the time, I like to stay for those, and you do learn a lot. And you learn a lot about like the gentleman that rescued Chip Griffin and all of them from their home that was recognized last city council for his heroic acts.
Right.
You get to hear about some of the great things the citizens of our community do as well that doesn't often get seen. And so, again, I think being involved is a huge way. And I think involvement is something that a lot of people, I think, have questions about, and some of it they just don't know. And we've had some records this year, like 8 inches of snow, and I never want that again. I'm a chaplain with the sheriff's office too, and so I was well aware of a lot of the accidents and things. It was crazy. Wow. But with that being said, so many folks have questions about, like when we did the warming shelter,
right?
Well, who's got this up? Or church is not doing anything. Right. What about the homelessness that we see in the city? And we hear a lot of these conversations, and I'm on social media a lot, and I see that in our What's Happening Enterprise pages and those things. But what are you seeing that some of the churches and nonprofits like the Christian Mission and WEPS and others and community organizations are doing to support the community in times of need, those in poverty, those sorts of things? What are you seeing churches and nonprofits being involved in doing these things?
They have a big part in disasters, emergencies, snow, whatever it might be. And in fact, your church that night with the snow opened up. We had a warming shelter here. We thought we'd have a lot more folks in it. We only ended up with 4 folks, 3 of them being a family that got stranded up here in Coffee County, and the sheriff brought them in. But the homeless, the last count I heard was 25 to 35 homeless. I don't know the count. I haven't actually gone out there, but that was what I was told. And there was probably 4 or 5 that ended up at the Christian Mission because they have space for a few over there. We are in talks right now, Christian Mission and your church and other churches, on how we're going to do this. And what we have to do is have churches being able to open up the night of the fire at Command Sergeant Major Benny Adams' VA home out there. Your folks just stepped right up. When I got alerted for my CERT team, told to meet here, all of a sudden, you got 30-something folks in there. And we were ready to receive the residents out there. And then when they changed and said, we're going to rehab centers, we readjusted and moved on. That's how all our churches need to do it. And there are some. We've got cots in a couple of major churches. We've got several of the churches have fed folks. When we ran the shelter down at the Boy Scout area by Fleming Cleaners, Sessions. I get those two mixed.
Yeah.
Let me further down. Sessions. We had several churches come in when we put the word out because we brought those families in there, and the First Baptist stepped up and said, okay, you can use this building as a Red Cross shelter, and the Red Cross shelter doesn't have a lot of folks, so they asked CERT, can you help out? But we were there all during the day receiving the donations. And I'll tell you, all the churches stepped up, all the restaurants stepped up. We had more food, more supplies, diapers. We eventually had to cut it off that first night because we were just getting inundated with a lot of donations. And so we were able to say, okay, let's take that down to the Christian Mission, wherever, and then we'll be able to redistribute it. And we were able to, when the families did leave, once the shelter closed down, they were able to take diapers and food and stuff along with them. So that was awesome for that time to do it. And then the same thing for the fire at the home. We've had a lot of the veteran service organizations a lot of the churches had stepped up to bring donations out there at the rehab center, and to the home, and everything from food, clothing, water. You ask for bottled water, and I'll tell you a couple of emergencies I was out with Coffee County MA, and that's who we belong to. CERT does. We get our orders from Grant Lyons and Andy Lohr out there. But when we asked for water one time and stuff, we must have had 30 or 40 pallets or more of water out there. And we started just giving it out. And then we started getting more and tarps and things during a couple of hurricanes. But that's what's neat about our area around here is the churches will step up. Now, we need to get that effort together so we don't duplicate the effort out there.
Yeah.
And we need to know who's doing what. So that's why we all need to get together with Coffee County EMA and the Enterprise city there who is talking about, okay, what shelter, what are we going to open the next time when it happens?
Right.
And during that snow that we had, a lot of shelters that were up in Dothan, everybody kept saying, oh, there's a lot of shelters opening up there and all. They were all churches. There might have been one or two that maybe the city had or county had rather, but they were churches.
Right.
And that's because they had the space and they have such great folks that will volunteer to do that. Now, one of the things I'm trying to do in the CERT program is get faith-based CERT teams. Several years ago, Harvest Church came down and I trained 30 folks from Harvest Church in the CERT training. And now they have that at their church. So what I'm trying to do is get the folks out there that way they can take better care of their congregation.
Yeah.
And be able to, like your folks that stepped up out here, they have that training. We're not going to teach you to be doctors and nurses, but we're going to be able to put out a small fire, triage, search and rescue for folks, and be able to take care of your church. God forbid something happens to your church, but you'll be able to check on all those congregation members and make sure they're okay. So I'm trying to get the word out as faith-based to get the churches more involved in that and have their disaster team or whatever they do, along with their security team to do those types of things. And in fact, years ago, and I'm trying to get back in the school system, we trained over 200 GRTC cadets. They have their own CERT bags out there, and I'm trying to get back into the school since COVID and everything else has happened to get those kids trained. I'd love to have it as an elective in the school. They can have a club.
Yeah.
There's two CERTs all over the United States. In fact, ESCC has a CERT program. We trained several of those. Captain Jeff Spence out there.
Okay.
CERT team at the college out there and over at the Aviation College in Ozark.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, as a pastor, I think that there are some important things for churches to do in the community. And I think one of those obviously is evangelism, proclamation of the gospel, those things. I think the other is community service, as far as meeting emergency needs for people. The church should be a place that if someone needs help in the community, they can go there and expect some type of assistance.
It's that sanctuary.
Yeah, exactly. But the other I think that is vital is that churches are unique spaces oftentimes, and it's changing a little bit. The church plant, like like Church With You or High Point in its origins, not now, but in its origins, and there are other churches that don't meet in traditional sanctuary. Your structure's a little different, but in the Bible Belt, for a lot of established churches like First Methodist, First Baptist, Hillcrest, EFA, others, you have a space that is larger than most. That
you do.
If you said, hey, we can probably have 2 people sleep on a pew, well, that may not be ideally for what your church housekeeper would like, to have a stranger sleeping on the pew. But if it's cold outside and you don't have a gym, that is better than them suffocating in the winter, right. from hypothermia or whatever. So I think churches have an advantage just with their space to offer the love of Christ in service, by giving folks food, by serving folks in those ways, and using the space God's entrusted with you for something that can bring glory to Him through the way we serve.
Right. And some of those churches, the bigger ones you were talking about, have showers, have dining facilities and stuff, which really meets that for a mass casualty or whatever it might be, or a volunteer reception center to where we can at least get folks out of the weather, give them someplace to go, a sanctuary, like you said, and just ease their mind, because they've just gone through one of the worst tragedies they might have gone through.
Yeah.
And you just got to take care of your fellow man. And that's what I'd love, and why I stayed around Enterprise and this area down here, is because they do that each and every day that I see out there. I mean, it's just amazing how everybody comes together. You mentioned, hey, I need help on this. And I see a lot on Facebook. I'm just moving in here. I got to get my car fixed, do this. And people will jump right out and help them out. But that's what we need to do. That's what the good Lord wants us to do.
I tell you what, Scotty, something that I guess you could say it sealed the deal for me on church being involved in the community. One, in church history, we see the church as a body of Christ and an institution, not only being a center point of society, but being a center point of education, center point of caring for widows, caring for those on the outskirts and things. But I tell you what, there was a moment that brought me to tears, and I want to say it was at Fall Festival this year. One thing our church does, being a downtown church, is, anytime there's a downtown event, we try to open the doors. Like Whoville's over 20,000 people. Fall Festival is 15,000 people. Spring Fest a little smaller. But what we try to do is just open the doors. And so what we do is we offer clean bathrooms, and normally we offer either some type of food, like this year we did boiled peanuts. Years past, we've done pancakes. We've done.
The pancakes were delicious, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I know. We've done some things like that. But we had a lady who came up to us, and one of our volunteers came up to one of our volunteers during Fall Festival, crying, and said, "The greatest ministry your church could do for a downtown event like this is have restrooms open." And she said that because she had a handicapped daughter who was not able to get into a porta potty easily, even the handicapped ones and things, and to be able to roll in and go to a clean restroom that was safe and secure, easy to manage, and to leave just meant the world to her. And it doesn't seem like, how does that represent the ministry and mission of the church? Well, it serves our fellow man. It brings glory to God, that this is not a building that is just used for I'll steal a quote from Tim Keller where he says, the church is not a country club for saints; it's a hospital for sinners. This is not just a building for us to use on Sundays and Sundays alone, but the one that we've been entrusted with to serve people and to serve God in the way that we love God and love people. And so we try to incorporate that within our church with everything that we do, of how we can use our space and our time and our resources to honor God, to share the gospel, and to serve one another. And I think that without connecting in with community resources, it's hard to do that well, without duplicating and without causing more harm than good.
Yeah, and that's why we all need to get together. So we're up singing, shooting music. Downtown restrooms, public, working on it.
Yeah, right.
There's many different things that we're trying to get out there for that. That was, when we first got together with the council, we sat together in a strategic planning. We do it every year. And at that time, we want to say, okay, what are we going to do in the next 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. But what are we going to do this year? What are our goals? What are our vision? And each council meeting, we go over that quarter's goals and vision. Have they been completed? What's happening? Do we need to move it to the right some or what? But that was one of when we talk about strengths and weaknesses of Enterprise, and then what are some things that we had no control over, whether it be like Fort Novasil going away,
right?
ESCC going away, things like that, which I don't think will ever happen. But, we put those things down and we talked about it, and public restrooms is on the list.
Yeah.
And we keep moving it up, and okay, when we're going to do this, how we're going to do it, the safest way that we're going to do that for folks like that. But, having another open church restrooms, whatever, at each end is perfect.
Yeah.
Helps out. And I know folks do that, especially during the Christmas parade. I've seen that happen up and down Main Street. But, that's And that's what the church is all about. And with her crying like that, I mean, that had to be
it was
a tear-breaker.
Because it was one of those, we had a lot of folks coming in that just loved that there was a warm space. It was kid-friendly, designed for that. But when she said that, it was that light bulb moment of, this really has done something for the greater good in the name of Jesus. And I think that kind of brings us to the end for us is, when we consider being involved in the community, in support of wherever direction our city's going, and in support of volunteering and being a volunteer force, and ways that we can know more about our city and our community. I think it starts with being aware of knowing what's going on. And when we know what's going on, then we can know how to get plugged in and get together serving.
Yeah, and if you want to volunteer for a board, a commission, you can go online on that city website. Right. Go to where it says government. Go down, it says boards, commission. There's a form there to fill out. And if you know who your district person is, and your council person, then contact them too. But fill out that form and put on there, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, whatever it might be, to help out. We don't know that, and like I tell folks, they want all these businesses coming in. Those businesses aren't going to read Facebook. You got to email, you got to text, you got to do all that to get those things done. We don't know that you want to serve unless you tell us that you want to serve. And if I can steal something from President John F. Kennedy, he said at one time, he said, that's not what you can do for your country, but what your country can do for you. Or no, that's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Excuse me there. And I've changed that around and said, that's not what your city can do for you, but what can you do for your city? There's a lot of talent out there, a lot of ideas, suggestions, recommendations. Yeah. We don't know that. And you just put it on Facebook or whatever, not going to get it done. Let me know. Call me. My number's on there. Yeah. In fact, I can give it to you now. It's 334-806-1994. I don't mind.
Yeah.
We've got to get the word out, but we've got to hear from the folks. And we're here willing to help out. And we need everybody out there.
That's right. It's our city, folks, and it's up to us to take care of it. Thanks for being part of the Know, Grow, Go podcast. Scotty, thank you for being a part with us today. And remember to share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you learn every time that we get a new post up. May God bless the city of Enterprise. May God bless First Methodist Church, and may God be with us as we go. Have a great week, friends.
Amen.